If a dead man reappears on the scene just to get into the spirit of things...
Isn't it a crime?
WNEW presents the 13th in a series of famous mystery stories relating to the gentle art of mayhem and the less gentle art of murder.
Isn't it a crime?
This is Jerry Marshall speaking. Now, not only will you hear the exciting story of Speaking of Murder, but you will be invited to join our radio detective force and be given a chance to solve the crime before the answer is revealed, just as if you might have been there on the scene. When all the clues are in, we'll return to the scene of the crime for the solution of tonight's mystery, Speaking of Murder. It's nearly noon. Sunlight pokes inquisitive fingers under the window blinds of the penthouse apartment of Glenn Winthrop, writer of mystery stories. But Glenn isn't having any. His face is buried in the pillow and he sleeps with sound effects. The door opens, framing a lean, melancholy face. The owner of the face peers at the figure on the bed, then approaches, holding at arm's length an infernal machine, destroyer of sleep, shatterer of nerves.
Answer the door, Smithers.
It's not the door, Mr. Winthrop.
Then answer the phone. I want to sleep.
It's not the phone, sir.
Whatever it is, answer it.
It's an alarm clock, sir.
Oh, no. No alarm clocks. The curfew shall not ring tonight.
But it isn't night, sir. It's nearly noon.
Oh, it's merely a figure of speech, Smithers. I don't care if it's night, morning, or midwinter. Go away and take that instrument of Satan with you. For heaven's sake, Smithers, turn that confounded thing off.
Yes, sir.
Now, go away.
But, Mr. Winthrop, sir, I must shave you. You'll just sit over there.
I'll grow a beard. I'm not going to shave for a month.
But you must, sir.
Archibald, what's got into you?
I do wish, sir, that you wouldn't call me Archibald. As I told you, sir, when I entered your service, I detest the name. My name is Archie.
And I wish, Archibald, that you'd go away and let me sleep. I detest alarm clocks, and I'm beginning to detest you.
Surely, sir, you don't want to entertain a lady with that ghastly stubble on your chin, especially your fiancée.
What's my fiancée got to do with it? She's in Florida.
Oh, no, sir. Miss Southwood phoned a few minutes ago.
Frances phoned? Well, why didn't you say so?
I hadn't as yet had the opportunity to do so, sir. She said she'd be here in 30 minutes.
Here in 30 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Just my luck, and I was all set to go on a hunting trip tomorrow.
Oh, I didn't realize that you didn't wish to see her, sir. Shall I refuse her entrance, sir?
Shall you what?
Shall I turn her away, sir?
Of course not, you dope. Where's my robe?
Here, sir. If you'll just sit over here, I'll shave you in no time. I have everything ready.
Archie, I apologize. I'll never call you Archibald again. You're a lifesaver.
Thank you, sir. Now, just sit here, sir.
I wonder what brought Frances back.
She didn't say, sir. Now, if you'll just turn your head so, I'll lather your face.
In the middle of the season, too. Doggone it, Archie, you put this shaving soap in my mouth.
I'm sorry, sir. If you keep your mouth closed, it won't happen again.
Oh, Glenn, darling, I'm so glad to see you. Kiss me again. What is it, Archibald?
Shall I bring some coffee, Mr. Winthrop?
Darling, I'm afraid Archie doesn't approve of romance before breakfast.
Well, he'll just have to approve. After we're married, I'm sure I shall insist upon being kissed before breakfast.
Shall I bring the coffee, sir?
Oh, yes. By all means, Archibald, bring the coffee.
Thank you, sir.
You're Your valet is sort of weird, darling.
Oh, he's all right. He's fussy about his name, that's all. I don't think he liked it when you called him Archibald.
But you just called him that yourself.
I always do when I'm annoyed with him.
And you were annoyed with him just now?
When anyone interrupts the most beautiful woman in the land and the best actress, just when she's about to kiss me, why shouldn't I be annoyed?
Oh, you're crazy, but I love it.
Now, tell me, darling, what brings you back to the city so soon? When your show closed last week, you told me you were going away for a month.
I got a wire from Robert that I must be at my uncle's house tonight.
In that gloomy old ruin out in the suburbs? But why? I thought that house was closed after your uncle died.
It was, but Robert stayed on there.
Who's Robert?
He was Uncle Ned's confidential secretary. He had charge of all my uncle's affairs. He and my cousin Irma nursed Uncle during his last illness. Robert wired that it was urgent that I come to the house tonight. Irma's to be there, too.
Be taken care of by mail.
I don't know what it is, but Robert's wire states that if I hope to participate in Uncle's estate, I had to be there tonight. Anyway, there's something funny about the way Uncle died. I almost think sometimes that it was murder.
That sounds like the beginning of one of my mystery stories.
I know. I dread going out there. The place has always made me so uneasy. That's why I want you to come with me.
Ah, I see. I just spent 3 months writing a book about a spooky old house. Now I have to visit one. And me on my vacation.
Is this the place, mister?
Yeah, this is it.
Oh, thanks, mister.
Yeah.
Gosh, what a spooky dive. You wouldn't catch me going into a place like that.
Are you hinting for an invitation?
Oh, no, not me, buddy.
Well, tastes differ. Be seeing you, cabbie.
I hope so, but I ain't holding my breath.
Cab driver gives me the creeps the way he said he hoped so when you told him you'd be seeing him.
Oh, he was just kidding. But this is a spooky-looking place. Why'd your uncle with all his dough want to live in a house way back from the street like that?
He built the wall all around the grounds so he'd have privacy.
Well, he might as well have lost himself in the jungle. Oh, here's the gate. Oh, watch out you don't stumble, Fran. Gee, it's sure dark around this place.
Oh, what was that?
Oh, it's just a hoot owl, darling. We're really in the jungle. But don't let it get on your nerves.
Oh, but it is scary. After that gate shuts us off from the street, we might as well be in another world.
Say, by the way, is there a dog here?
Oh, yes, Uncle's dog, Hamlet. Robert kept him after Uncle died. He's a Great Dane. Hamlet, I mean, not Robert.
That's not so good.
Well, why? Don't you like Great Danes?
I don't mind them in the daylight, but I certainly don't fancy a young elephant jumping on me in the dark.
Oh, Hamlet won't hurt us. He knows me.
Yeah, but he doesn't know me.
I can't understand, though, why he hasn't barked. He usually raises the roof when anyone comes into the grounds at night. Look, Glenn. There by the tree in the porch, there's a huge dark shadow and something white. Oh, Glenn, let's get out of here.
No, wait a minute. I'm going to see what it is.
No, darling, don't.
Come out of there, whoever you are.
Is that you, Mr. Winthrop?
Archie.
Yes, sir. When Miss Southwood screamed, it nearly scared the wits out of me.
Well, Archie, I can't say that your sudden appearance was a sedative to our nerves.
Oh.
That outlandish creature, it seems to be a bird, sir. It's been roosting over my head ever since I got here.
Incidentally, Archie, what are you doing here anyway?
Oh, I beg your pardon, sir. It quite slipped my mind in my discomposure. You see, sir, after you and Miss Southwood left for dinner, I discovered an appalling thing, a terrible oversight.
What is it?
I hope you'll forgive me, sir, but when you were dressing, I was guilty of a terrible bit of negligence.
Well, Archie, what is it?
It was an oversight, sir, and I'm terribly sorry. I didn't know where you were dining, so I came out here to meet you.
Here, Archie, what are you talking about?
Oh, it's horrible, sir. I let you come out in public without a handkerchief in your breast pocket.
Oh.
And here it is, sir.
Well, I'll forgive you this time, Archie. Just so you don't let me go out in public someday without my pants.
Oh, no, sir.
Oh, come on, Glenn. Let's go inside. This dark yard frightens me.
That house looks just as dark. Are you sure Robert said he'd meet you here?
Yes, I'm sure. Look, there's a light, that window at the side. That used to be Uncle's den.
I beg pardon, sir.
Robert said he'd meet you here?
Yes, I'm sure.
You'd mind walking to the gate with me? It seems that the nocturnal aspect of this place appalls me. I feel that my nervous system has been sadly deranged.
Well, you may as well come in with us, Archie. We shan't be here long. I hope. Miss Southworth is planning to fly back to Florida tomorrow, and I want to start on that hunting trip. God, I almost fell down. Confound it. Somebody left a rolled-up rug or something on that porch. Why can't they have lights on when they're expecting company?
Well, there never was any furniture on the porch when Uncle was alive.
Where in blazes is that bell?
Oh, there isn't a bell, dear. Uncle could never stand bells ringing. He wouldn't even have a telephone for that reason. Here, the big door knocker.
Well, let's see how this contraption works. Ah, I've got it. Oh, echoes through the house like the crack of doom. You suppose there's anybody there?
Well, I'm sure I saw a light in the den. Knock again.
Okay.
It's as silent as a mausoleum, sir.
Archibald, your choice of words is unfortunate under the circumstances, but you're right. Fran, I think someone's been playing a practical joke on you.
Bringing me out to this gloomy old house when there's nobody here isn't my idea of a joke. That isn't funny.
Practical jokes rarely are.
I beg pardon, sir, but there seems to be someone with a candle moving around inside.
Oh, good evening, Miss Francis. You're a little early.
Good evening, Robert. This is my fiancé, Mr. Winthrop.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Why the candle? What's happened to the electric lights?
A fuse blew out, Miss Francis, and I had no spare. We'll have to make out with candles tonight. Who is this other gentleman?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Smithers, Mr. Winthrop's man.
Great Scott, Archie. What's the matter with you? You're shaking like a leaf.
Look, sir. There on the porch. That's what you stumbled over.
Hold the light higher, will you, Robert, please? Thanks. It's a dog.
It's Hamlet. No wonder he didn't bark at us. He's dead.
There's not a mark on him. Wonder what happened to him.
The dog grieved for his master. Probably died of grief. He was very old.
No. Glenn, I'm frightened. There's menace in the air here tonight. I can feel it. Something terrible will happen here tonight. Midnight. I wonder where Irma is.
She's probably coming with Dr. Blade. Perhaps he's been detained on a call.
Dr. Blade? You mean young Dick Blade, Uncle's doctor? Why is he coming?
Irma's been working in his office since your uncle died. He promised to bring her.
I never liked Dick Blade.
He's been very kind to Irma.
Yes, probably feathering his nest. Probably wants to marry her for her share of Uncle's fortune.
Perhaps if you had been your uncle's nurse instead of Irma, you might feel differently about Dr. Blade.
Oh, I'm sorry, Robert. That was a terrible thing to say. I'm not myself tonight. This place gives me the creeps. It almost seems that Uncle is here tonight reproaching me because I wasn't with him when he died.
I'm sure your uncle understood that you would have been with him had it been possible. You were very thoughtful. You sent fruit and flowers nearly every day.
Fruit and flowers. It meant nothing. Oh, I should have left the show and come here.
Your uncle wouldn't have wanted that. He was proud of your career.
Oh, why doesn't Irma come?
It was just a month ago tonight that he died. At 1:00. It's just an hour from the... Why, Miss Francis, you're shivering. Are you cold?
No, I was just listening to that wind. It has an eerie sound.
It's been a sultry day. Probably a storm brewing.
What was that?
I didn't hear anything.
Oh, listen.
You're upset, my dear. I heard nothing.
But I tell you, I heard something. It was the sound of something banging, like someone pounding on the wall. There it is again.
Miss Francis, you're overwrought. You're imagining things. I must have Dr. Blade prescribe something.
No, I don't trust that man.
Oh, hello, darling. Sorry I scared you.
Oh, Glenn, where have you been?
Archie and I were moving Hamlet's body so your cousin wouldn't get a scare when she arrived. Oh, by the way, Robert, Smithers is out in the hall. If you'll be so kind as to show us where we can wash up.
No, don't leave me, Glenn.
Why, Francis, what's wrong?
I don't know. I just don't want to be left alone.
All right, I'll stay.
I'll show Smithers the way upstairs.
Thanks.
Oh, darling, I'm so glad you came back when you did. That man gives me the creeps.
Oh, Robert? Yeah, he is sort of strange. I suppose it's just his way. Gee, you're sort of nervous. I've never seen you like this before.
Oh, that wind. That unearthly screeching wind. It's It's almost as though Uncle were trying to speak to me from his grave.
Oh, see here, young lady. You've got to get a grip on yourself. You mustn't go to pieces this way.
If only Irma would come, then we could get this business of Robert's over with and go home.
I thought you said that your uncle never had a phone. Gave me a start, too. I guess I'm developing your nerves. Oh, all right. I'm coming. Well, where is the confounded thing? It's over in this corner somewhere, but I can't find it.
Oh, there it is in the wastebasket.
That's a fine place to keep a phone. Hello? That's funny.
Did they hang up?
No, that's the funny part of it. There wasn't even a dial tone. The line's dead.
Oh, Glenn, darling, take me out of here. There's something horrible going on in this place.
I'm beginning to agree with you. There's something mighty funny about a phone hidden in a wastebasket ringing when the line is dead.
And Hamlet, I'm sure somebody killed him.
There wasn't a mark on the dog's body.
He could have been poisoned.
Yes, that's true. Did Robert tell you why he sent for you to come here tonight?
He said we'd have to wait until Irma got here. She and I are Uncle's only surviving relatives, and it has something to do with the will. Robert drew it up, you know.
Yeah, but why should your uncle's secretary draw up his will? Why not a lawyer?
Well, Robert was more than Uncle's secretary. He was an old friend. He gave up his law practice to handle Uncle's affairs.
You know, Francis, this is all very strange. I feel as though I'm living in the pages of one of my own crazy books. I've written this story 12 times myself.
Your man will be down in a minute, Mr. Winthrop.
Thanks, Robert. Robert, when did you have a phone installed in this house?
Phone?
Yes. A little while ago, a phone rang.
Oh.
I had trouble locating it, but finally found it in the wastebasket. When I answered, the line was dead. It did seem rather strange.
I had the phone put in shortly after your uncle's death, Miss Francis. I was working at the desk today and remember putting it in the basket to clear the desktop. As to the line being dead, are you sure of that, Mr. Winthrop?
Quite sure. Try it yourself.
Oh, that's probably Irma. Excuse me, I'll let her in.
You know, Francis, I believe you're right. There is something fishy about that man. That strange gliding walk. That flat voice.
And that pale face. Glenn, he looks like a dead man.
So you're Glenn. Dear Francis has told me so much about you.
Never mind trying to make a play for him, dear Irma. He's mine.
How you talk, Francis. Well, Robert, suppose we get down to business. Dick and I want to get back to town.
Phew, we had a wet trip out. It's pouring in town. Bad storm. I tried to call you, but couldn't get you. Saw the reason later. There's a tree down right across the telephone line.
Must have fallen while you were calling. The phone rang, but when I answered, the line was dead.
Ooh, don't talk about dead things. This house always gives me the willies. I don't see, Robert, why we had to come out here. Why couldn't we meet in town?
This really concerns only Miss Irma and Miss Francis, but the rest of you may as well hear it. You know, of course, that I drew up your uncle's will.
Yes, of course.
And you know, too, that for some time before his death, your uncle was interested in spiritualism.
Yes, it always gave me the creeps to hear him talk about it.
Well, your uncle's will contained a strange clause. I, as executor, was instructed to request his heirs to be present here tonight, exactly 1 month after his death.
Cute little idea Uncle had. Did he order a storm, too?
Please, Miss Irma. I was further instructed to inform you of the terms of his will. I'll read it.
Oh, skip all the legal stuff. Just tell us how it affects us.
Very well. Aside from some minor bequests, the bulk of the property is to be divided between you two girls.
And you hauled us out here to hear that.
Wait, Miss Irma. Let me read the paragraph which refers to your inheritance. In the event that at exactly 1 month from the hour of my death, my two nieces, Frances and Irma, are living and unmarried, and in the event they have not been involved in any scandal that would besmirch the name of Southworth, the residue of my estate shall be divided equally between them. But should either of my nieces fail in these conditions, said niece shall forfeit her inheritance, and the entire estate shall go to my niece who fulfills said conditions.
Could both nieces fail?
Oh, no need to read the rest of it. We're both alive, we've been in no scandals, and I'm certainly not married. How about you, Francis?
Of course not.
Then that's that. Come on, Dick, let's start back to town.
One moment. Your uncle specified that both Francis and Irma should be here in this house at exactly 1 month from the time of his death. He died at 1 a.m. 1 month ago. We've still half an hour to wait. The conditions of the will are not effective till 1 a.m.
Well, that's pretty silly. Neither of the girls is going to die or get into a scandal in half an hour.
Well, as a doctor, I grant you that marriage or scandal are unlikely, but who can be sure about death?
10 minutes of 1. Now we must fulfill the final conditions of the will.
What do you mean, final conditions?
I will explain. Your uncle's interest in spiritualism prompted one other request. We are all to sit around this table. Miss Irma, sit here beside me. Dr. Blade on my other side.
Very well.
Thank you. Miss Francis, next to Dr. Blade.
Yes.
Mr. Winthrop and Smithers at the foot of the table. Thank you. Good. Now I am instructed to place this loaded revolver on the table in front of me. So.
What's this all about?
At exactly 1 o'clock, the hour of his death, your uncle will endeavor to speak to us from the grave.
Oh, this is so silly.
If you wish to forfeit your inheritance, you may withdraw.
Oh, not on your life.
You will note that a fire is laid in the grate. If your uncle succeeds in returning to us, he will light that fire.
Must we go through with this ridiculous farce, Robert?
You have heard the terms of your uncle's will.
Oh, that's a lot of tommy rot.
Perhaps. But it was your uncle's wish. I intend to carry out his wishes.
Oh, all right. Get on with it, then.
Now, each one clasp his neighbor's hand. All right?
Yes.
Then our circle is complete. I will now blow out the candle.
That clock. That monotonous clock. Tick, tick, tick. It's driving me crazy.
Your uncle was very fond of that clock.
Well, I don't like it.
Shh. It must be nearly 1. We must be quiet.
I tell you, I can't stand this.
Shh. Quiet, please.
Robert.
Oh.
Yes?
You have done well.
Is that you, Mr. Southworth?
On earth, that was my name. Now I have no name. I cannot free myself from earth until my work is done.
Your work? What is your work?
Vengeance. Only one here need fear me. The one who murdered me.
Murdered?
Yes, with a slow poison. One of you murdered me. Robert, you brought me whiskey. Was the poison in that? Or was it in the medicine Dr. Blade gave me? Francis, you sent me the fruit nearly every day. Was it the fruit of death?
No.
Irma, you cooked my food. One of you murdered me.
It wasn't I tell you. I didn't do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jerry Marshall speaking. We take time out now, in fact, 60 seconds time, to allow you amateur detectives to solve the mystery of tonight's story. To help you along with the solution, here are a few leading or misleading clues. First, is there anything that Robert said that might shed light on his innocence or guilt?
The dog grieved for his master. Probably died of grief. He was very old.
Now, how about Dr. Blade? Do you recall him saying...
Well, as a doctor, I grant that marriage or scandal are unlikely. But who can be sure about death?
Then there is Francis, a very definite heir to Uncle Shekels.
That menace in the air here tonight, I can feel it. Something terrible will happen here tonight.
Or could it have been Irma who was heard to say...
Must we go through with this ridiculous farce, Robert?
Well, the 60 seconds are up. Do you think you have the answer? All right. Hold on to it, and we'll return to our play and see if you're right.
It wasn't I tell you, I didn't do it.
Ned, don't you know who killed you?
I do not know, but I have ways of learning. At the stroke of one, I will light that fire in the fireplace, and the finger of death will touch my murderer. The flame will sear into the treacherous brain that planned my death.
Robert, light that candle.
Quiet. Tell me, Ned, who killed you?
I can't tell you, but in a moment you will know. In a moment the finger of death will touch the guilty one. There is a gun on the table. That is the only chance for the murderer. That is the only escape from eternal suffering. That is the only expiation.
No.
The finger of death is approaching. Confess your crime. Confess your crime. You murdered me. Confess. Confess before it's too late. The hour is at hand. Confess.
Look, the fire is lit.
The finger of death is upon you.
I did it. I killed him. I hated him. He made me a slave.
Robert, quick, the lights.
Oh, it's Irma. She shot herself.
Doctor, is she...
Yes, she's dead.
We felt for a long time that his death was not natural. And so Dick Blade and I got an exhumation order, and Dick found signs of poison in the body. We suspected both of you, Miss Francis. It had to be either you or Miss Irma. So we set the stage for our ghost. The banging shutter, the candlelight, the seance. It was all staged.
But Hamlet...
Well, the dog died this afternoon. I put the body on the porch.
Oh, and the fire lighting itself?
Dick released my hand, and I set off a charge of flashlight powder.
What about the ghost voice?
That was Dick. We planned to scare a confession from the guilty one. And it worked.
Poor Irma. It's horrible.
It's better the way it happened.
Won't there be legal complications and publicity about all this? After all, Irma committed a murder and then committed suicide.
No, the police have informed me that no one need remain for questioning. No charges will be pressed. There will be no publicity. In fact, an inspector from the homicide squad was present in the West Room. It was he who removed the body.
Oh, Glenn, I'll be so happy to get out of this awful house. Listen, darling, I'm not going to go back to Florida. Let's get married tomorrow.
Francis, you darling, of course.
I beg your pardon, sir.
What is it, Archie?
Mr. Winthrop, sir, speaking of tomorrow, have you considered you were going on a hunting trip?
Speaking of murder, have you considered what a swell corpse you'd make, Archibald?
Please, don't call me Archibald, sir.
We have brought you the 13th of a series of mystery stories. Tonight's drama, Speaking of Murder, was written by Don Thompson and directed by Milton Bernard Kay. The cast featured Casey Allen, Eleonora Reed, Leonard Scherer, Jason Johnson, Eileen Court, and Merrill E. Joels. Musical settings were by Kay Reed. This is Jerry Marshall speaking and saying good night for Isn't It a Crime?